I'll call the June 10th, 2021 City of Hayes Commission meeting to order. All 5 commissioners are present. Minutes from the prior meeting. Comments, questions, additions, corrections?
I have none.
Thank you. And seeing no citizens, we have no comments from the citizenry. We have nothing in the consent agenda. First item on the agenda is Kim Rupp Property Liability Coverage Renewal.
Good evening, Commissioners. Kim Rupp, Director of Finance. We're here to speak to you this evening about the property and liability coverage renewal for 2021-2022. With me on the phone here on the speakerphone is also Charlie Hare with our broker, A.J. Gallagher. He's going to have a few comments in a minute about our renewal and also the state of the industry. As you may recall, we've been with the Pool Midwest Public Risk since 2017. This chart shows a historical perspective of our annual contributions. Charlie did poll the marketplace, and both Brit and Travelers, who we've had insurance with before, declined to quote. They could not provide a competitive bid. And Charlie will talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. We also had a local inquiry, Taylor, with insurance planning, approach us indicating Employers Mutual Casualty was interested, but after submitting an application and Taylor doing some work with them, they were still about $40,000 away on premium, plus their deductibles were quite a bit higher. So this evening we're recommending the renewal with NPR. It amounts to $262,616. That's an increase of a little over $17,000, and that's basically on pace with where we were last year. NPR moves some of the contributions from the liability to the property due to increases in costs on that side over the past few years, such as property reinsurance. So there's a larger than normal increase in property, but a very nominal increase in liability contributions to offset that. I did want to review a little about NPR. NPR is a public pool entity that includes city, schools, counties, health departments, fire protection districts, ambulance districts, election boards, and housing authorities. Their services go beyond just property and liability coverage. I think of them as a true risk prevention advisor. They also offer facility and work practice reviews with, and our risk manager is in contact with me regularly about that. And they offer some online and site-based training. So I'll let Charlie speak a little bit about our renewal and the state of the market.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Kim, and thank you everyone for your time this evening. I'm fortunate enough to have the opportunity to speak 2 weeks in a row, and as I mentioned last week at Board Work Study, I am looking forward to getting out there in person. Our company has allowed us post July 1st to get back on the road, so I do appreciate your understanding of my lack of ability to be out there this evening, but I look forward to being there in a normal environment, or as normal as we can make it in years to come. As Kim mentioned, historically, for the last number of years, I have, kind of had my ear to the ground, a pulse on the marketplace for the City of Hayes after moving or recommending a move from Brits at the time to NPR, just to see if there is anything out there that is comparable to the NPR program in today's market. For the last couple of years, as the market has continued to harden, and what I mean by harden, more difficult to obtain insurance coverage at a reasonable price. Not only is the price going up from a rate perspective, but also the first dollar marketplace, of which Brit, who is now actually Intact Insurance, and Travelers, the increases in that market are a little bit more so than that of the pooling world. In addition, there's more scrutiny surrounding reinsurance agreements, deductible structures, and what is actually in the coverage document itself. So we have seen a restriction in coverage as the market has continued to tighten. And that is a product of the losses that are occurring from a global and macroeconomic perspective in the United States and abroad in today's market. Cyber insurance is obviously certainly something that has made the news. That is, we've had a pretty awful run here in the United States for the last 3 years with property insurance losses. And obviously, there's been a lot surrounding law enforcement liability and other liability factors related to public entities in the news, which has led to verdicts of nuclear proportions that we have not seen before in the court system. So all things considered, I'm not giving you a great update on the market, but Kim did a very good job of explaining what I consider to be a great renewal for this market. NPR seems to be doing their job in not only finding avenues to be creative in how they insure municipalities and other clients, but also seems to be working diligently to keep rates down, and that is a product of a tremendous loss control program and a commitment to claims adjudication, as soon after a loss as there can be. And I obviously know that we will be in some sort of contact here very regularly over the next coming months after the hailstorm from a couple of weeks back. But all things considered, 7% is well under the market average right now. I can tell you that from a Gallagher book of business perspective, we are looking right now on average at about 21, 22% for our overall book of business in terms of the rate increases for 2021. So you compare that against 7% in a very wind and hail prone state like Kansas, where the majority of the increases are related to the property line. All things considered, I would say that this is an excellent renewal, and I support Kim and his recommendation to renew with NPR for the 2021-2022 fiscal year, of which is NPR's.
So tonight would be a couple options. We can renew with NPR, or hopefully, if we're not doing that, provide me with other guidance. So our recommendation is to renew with NPR. That would be the action requested.
I move we authorize the city manager to renew the 2021-2022 property liability coverages with the NPR package in the amount of $262,616 to be funded from the intergovernmental insurance and surety line item.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Musil. It's been moved by Commissioner Reuter, seconded by Commissioner Musil. Any other discussion? Questions? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved 5-0.
Thank you very much, Charlie.
Thank you, Charlie.
Appreciate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
I'm going to start the commission comments this evening, if I may. I usually start at that end of the table. I'm going to start at this end of the table. Last week, after a brief discussion and consensus among the 4 commissioners that were here, Commissioner Berges was laying on a beach or something like that. We asked that staff present a budget with an increase of 1.5 mils to 26.5 mils. That was my recommendation of a levy of 0.50 for economic development. That was actually increased to another 25 mils, or 0.25 mils by Commissioner Reuter, and 0.75 for social services or care council. That was recommended by Commissioner Berges, and I read that recommendation on his behalf. Since that meeting, I've spoken to a lot of constituents. Very few of them contacted me. I reached out to a lot of citizens. I found that not one of the people that I talked to or called me was against funding economic development. They were all very much in favor of it. What they weren't in favor of was 0.75 mils. They did not want it in the form of a levy, nor did they want to fund the care council in that form. Those offering opinions were squarely on the page, not saying no, but saying this is not a good year to do it. I had a lot of conversation about what is a good year to ever raise the levy, but nonetheless, that was the reason. My goal in all of this was to fund economic development the way I believe it's supposed to be funded, and that is as the economic development arm of the city and the county, not an outside agency. Having said that, I'm listening and will step back from my request and recommendation to fund Grow Hayes from a mill levy, but will ask that the amount we fund is equal to 0.75 mils. I believe Grow Hayes is making real progress in entrepreneurship, housing, workforce development, and jobs. I want a consistent revenue source for them to be able to count on, thus the mill request, but another year. Open for discussion.
I'd gladly. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'd gladly follow that too, Mayor. I'd back mine too, as long as we continue to find the funding source that's equal to what we're looking for. If it doesn't come in the funding from the mill, if it coming from somewhere else, as long as we can fund them appropriately. I fully support your recommendation.
I also, Mayor, I agree with you. You know, some of the people emailed us all. A few people have contacted me via text, and they all 100% agree with what we want to do, but they don't like the mill. And basically, exactly what you just said. But they all like it. They just said figure out a way to fund it because it needs to be funded. I think Grow Hayes is, in my opinion, the best we've had since I've been on the commission. And I don't, you know, whether, Doug, you're here in 10 years or somebody else is doing it, we have to have funding for that. We cannot go backwards. And I think it's just something it should be in the budget. We got to figure it out. And I think Hayes is going in a good way, and we need to keep it that way. And I think our economic development has a big part of that. You know, I visited with Tisa Mason just a little bit ago, and, you know, they got a plan going forward on, which is, I think, an unbelievable plan, trying to open up in-state tuition to 14 states. To me, right there, that's economic development for Hayes. If that happens, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight, but that's going to be huge for Hayes. And if we could, I think we personally need to work with them as much as we can to, you know, whether we need to write a letter of please let this happen, or I think that could be huge. But I really would like to see us fund, you know, Grow Hayes going forward. To me, that should be something it's in the budget every year.
And I appreciate those comments, because again, my thinking remains the same, that we don't have economic development on staff at the city. And this should be our arm, and historically, it's been the city and the county that have funded economic development, and I would hope that it would continue. Commissioner Mellick, any comments?
I'm definitely against any kind of a mill levy increase. And I really don't have a comment till I look at next year's budget.
Sure.
Because, I mean, I'm not gonna make a promise to anything till I look at that, so.
Good point.
Sure.
I will say though, on the social services part, I know Commissioner Berges hasn't talked on that, but if we see a need that they need more, I think we also need to find more for them. You know, I need to know, I mean, I haven't seen anything that shows that, you know, they need more or less, but maybe we'll see that. I think that's something we also need to be considering. And, you know, I think personally backing off the mill from what people have told me, I think we definitely need to back that off, but, you know, I'm willing to listen.
I would certainly hope that social services would be something we would never look at not funding. We have a great resource in the Care Council and their ability to accept those applications and review them and review the agencies. Commissioner Berges?
I don't know if I can express my thoughts well enough this evening. I'm glad that we explored the mill or looking. I think we should at least continue to kind of look at that as an avenue, if not this year, in future years. You don't ever want to be on a commission that's looking at raising taxes, and I think that's there's very valid reasons that people sent us of why not to do it this year. There's other opportunities that will probably rely on mill, such as the school. Part of the reason I think it's worth looking at, I'm glad we did anyway, if not continue to look at it, is just because, as we know, the mill is where it's just it's a little bit more steady revenue source for economic development. For me, it's the social services that the mill, the property valuation's only gone down once in 27 years. So it's a way to fund what we've looked at funding that will naturally have some kind of increase every year just by property valuations. But I can agree that if we can look at the budget and find other ways to maximize and get things funded, then that's what we're doing. So I think that's fair to kind of step back and look and see if we can do it from sales or general, but continue to see if the mill is the appropriate place to do it.
So what I think I hear consensus to take the budget planning back to 25 mills and have us take a look at it that way. Do we all agree? I think it was 25.11 or something last year. Wasn't it a little bit over?
We shoot for 25, but when Kim certifies the amount to the county clerk, it's a dollar amount. And so it may be a tenth or a thousandth over under 25, but it's always right at 25 we shoot for.
Very good. Well, I want to express to my fellow commissioners, I really appreciate the discussion. I think that we have to look at all ways to run this community and run this city. And I think we have great staff that helps us with that. If we never have a discussion other than just keep doing the same thing, nothing's going to grow and nothing's going to keep going forward. So I appreciate each of you, whether we agreed or disagreed. We had a great discussion. I appreciate that. Commissioner Musil?
Well, I also want to, we were all contacted, I know, by different people, but there's people that haven't contacted me since I actually first got on the commission. And I mean, I think this says a lot for our community. It means they're actually paying attention to what we're doing, and I respect that, and I thank them for contacting us. And, one thing, Toby, and we had a conversation Tuesday, you flat out said it's not an emergency to raise the mill this year. And I respect, there's many times you've told us, hey, we better not do this year, and I respect that. You're here day to day, and I appreciate that. And, that was enough for me right there. So, that's all I got.
Commissioner Mellick?
I have nothing this evening, thank you.
Commissioner Berges?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Commissioner Reuter?
Yeah, I just want to thank the people who reached out to us and let us know their thoughts on it. I mean, when we can come up here and have good, open, honest discussion, it's nice to get stuff on the table, see how the citizens react, and adjust from there. We're up there representing them, so if we can continue to do that and fund our future with, it sounds like everybody's on board to fund the future. It's just finding the way to do it. I mean, that's why I love the community we're in. Everybody wants to move forward, and it sounds like they do. They just have
Different ways.
yeah, different ways, and all of their reasonings that were brought to me made absolute sense, and it's why we do this, so people can give us feedback, and I appreciate all the feedback, and I appreciate you guys allowing us to have these kind of open discussions.
I think it says a lot for all of us that people are willing to reach out. And when I made phone calls and asked people to have a cup of coffee or to talk about it, everybody was willing to step up and talk about it. And I think they have a lot of respect for the way we're approaching things because we do listen. We've listened through the whole process of anything we've done since I've been on the commission anyway. So I'm proud of what we do. I'm proud of what we've done through this process, and we'll get some funding done and have a good budget, hopefully. We're adjourned.
Kim, I'm good.